just to begin, has your research into Niger Delta history made you aware of any major misconceptions that people today have about the transatlantic slave trade? And if so, would you mind naming those misconceptions and setting the record straight?
Yes. There was one misconception that was very serious within Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria has been ruled for a long period by the military. And it was problems within the military that led to the Civil War. And during the Civil War period, the Biafran group actually took over parts of the Niger Delta, including Nembe. And the Biafrans, some of their leaders, actually stated publicly that they were doing that because the Nembe and Niger Delta, its own people, had carried Igbo people and sold them, which of course is a complete fallacy. The Delta people, Nembe and the other communities who are in the Delta did not go to any of those places to carry the Igbo slaves. They were always bought. That is, any slaves that the Nembe chiefs, Kalabari chiefs, or Boni chiefs sold to the Europeans, well, they had actually also bought them from the Igbos. They did not go to any Igbo community to raid or seize Igbos. And after the abolition, we now didn't have Igbo people who have on their own left their places, come to Nembe and other Niger Delta states and become members of our communities. And they are spread all over the country again, right north to its limit. And they are of course very restless people. A whole lot of them are in the US, the UK. But the Nembe people, Kalabare and so on, did not raid any Nigerian community to take slaves and sell them.
So it was people who Igbos were enslaved by other Igbos, and then and then they were sold to Ijo groups.
Yes, who then sold them. Yeah, and indeed, when the Nembe and Niger city-states, as we call them in Niger Delta, obtained slaves after the slave trade. They came, some settled or were brought, and the system that we have in the Niger Delta absorbed them, and they become indistinguishable from any other person. And a lot of them even became chiefs in Nembe and other places, in other Delta states. And of course, King, King Jaja of
Yes.
Opobo.
Yes.
Yeah, complete Igbo man. He went to Bonny. And the system is such that he then rose up, became very important, and led them out to another part of the Delta, and he became king Jaja. So that's the system in the Delta. Once you are part of it, a house, as we call them, a part of the community, you can be anything. If you are bright, you can become a chief. A whole lot of, in fact, that's the next paper I'm going to do is about that. Tracing the origins of chieftaincies, and we find that within Nembe, a whole lot of houses are headed by Igbo people who came from Igbo land. But they have become such an integral part of the community that even some members of those families will not know that the founder of their house was actually an Igbo man.
Yeah, so this gets at something that I want to ask you about, because you had in Niger Delta societies in those old days, situations like what you're mentioning with King Jaja of Opobo, with other people in Nembe, where people started off as enslaved in that society, could sometimes become extremely wealthy, could even become chiefs or heads of state, as in the case of King Jaja of Opobo.
Yes.
While others were being sold to Europeans and trafficked across the Atlantic. So, I mean, I guess my question is, how did this institution operate? How did it distinguish of enslavement? How did this institution distinguish between people, where some would have the opportunity to improve their lot and contribute to the community, and then others didn't?
Yeah, but because they made choices. If you are a chief in Nembe and you went up and brought 2, 3, 4, 5 slaves, you will know or can select the ones that you think are good, and you are going to sell the ones that have some bad character, are sickly, or whatever. Those are the ones you sell, trade. The others are integrated into the family, and they can become even rulers of that same house. Yeah.
Wow.
That's the system that is now operating.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Wow. Interesting. And
Yes, and you can, even the members of the houses do not know that the chief of their houses came from Igbo land, because the integration is complete.
By which you mean they have like social institutions for integrating people into that society?
Integration was taken very seriously. That's the basis of the organization of the house system in Nembe, and all the other Delta states are the same. If you go to Bonny, go to Kalabari, the same, or Krika.
I also want to ask, I mean, this is maybe more of an abstract question, but from the perspective of Niger Delta participants in this commerce in human beings, this traffic in human beings, what would people have said was the purpose of this? And I ask because, I mean, on the one hand, I've heard the theory that people, there were communities really just supporting like lavish lifestyles. I've heard it posited that people were stockpiling arms and keeping sort of state militaries to prevent against other communities raiding them, which in turn led to kind of an over militarization. I mean, what would you say was the purpose of the slave trade?
Well, the internal one was just simply to increase your manpower base. Like actually, I'm a chief. If I thought that maybe I don't have my own children, or I want my house to be bigger and have money. That was the way to increase the number of my family. You go to Iboland, up to today, they are doing that. You go to Iboland, and they are prepared to give you their daughters and so on, and you bring them and increase your population of your group. That's what the Niger Delta communities did, and are still doing.
And so it was like to see if I understand, like that they would be not in competition with each other, but to stay strong relative to the neighboring states.
Yes. And before one of the reason in the earlier periods was if a chief was in business and trade, and he was making a lot of profit with deal not by slave trade, but by palm oil trade, whatever. Because they wait to, as it were, where there are no banks. The profit that you make out of the palm oil trade, you cannot dig a well and put it all. So slaves from Igbo land was one way of saving putting your money. So number of women or men, and you increase your following.
Wow. So people were storing capital basically in the form of other people.
Yes, that was
Wow.
where you put your profit in. You have no bank to put it.
Wow.
Yeah, you become rich. You acquire slaves who are fully integrated, so that at the moment, some of them have become chiefs. They become chiefs. And there's no difference between them and those who are originally Mbe, Kabara, whatever. They become 100% part of the community.
So these people who the houses were trying to accumulate, they would enter the community, or they would enter the house enslaved, but with the social mobility, the potential to move up to a higher social station.
Completely. Once they are in, they have accepted 100%. They can begin to do whatever. They become rich. They are very bright, and they can then be chosen as chiefs.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for those people, I mean, especially let's say people in the United States or elsewhere in the Americas, who are interested in uncovering more details about people who were trafficked across the Atlantic, who they were, what their lives were like, etc. What do you think is the most productive way, or are the most productive methodologies for going about this research?
Well, I've not actually.
And maybe I should clarify, researching what their lives were like on the African continent, not after departure.
Not in America.
Not in America, but
In fact,
before leaving Africa, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I've just decided just now to take up this matter and look at the dynamics of this Igbo people being brought in to Niger Delta states and rising up to the chiefs. I plan to do a paper on it.
Wow. Amazing.
Yes. I've really only recently thought of it.
Outstanding. Wow. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes, it occurred to me as something that needs recording, because the community, once the person has come in and completely integrated nobody, bothers about this man is Igbo, but it's now a chief in MB, and that's it. 100% assimilated.
Mm.
I want to study particular case studies.
That would be fascinating. I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that paper.
Yes, God willing, I will do a paper on that. Because it really, I even myself, I just recently came to look at my own group in the, and then just discovered that then chieftaincies had titles and so on, that the people were really from Igbo land. But once they are assimilated and part of it within the generation, would bother about where they came from. They are completely, and the assimilation is 100%.
It's fascinating. I want to ask one more question that's related to this topic. How can we productively or most productively engage with historical sources that clearly refer to enslaved people, but that are narrativized in such a way to deny those people the status of actor or the status of agent? And I'm thinking about, for example, the Diary of Antera Duke, who was an Afik man, not from Nembe, but where in his writing he'll refer to this many people were sold to the Europeans today. But what can you take away from those kinds of sources where you can actually learn something about the people who were sold?
Well, the thing that interests Nigerian historians about those is they use their histories to learn about the European attitude to the people they bought. That is what they did. And these are people who took members of these communities away and sort of treated them as non-human. As I'm telling you, in Nembe, I myself did not realize that in chieftaincy positions, the holders were Igbo. Once they have been accepted, adopted, and so on, they can be kings, they're ruler, whatever. But the European or American case was that the reverse, that Black people are still stigmatized, they're still inferior, and so on, the opposite. That's what I see.
Yeah, I want to go back to something that we were talking about before. When we were talking about the slave trade and Igbo people being accepted into Nembe society, even into positions of power.
Okay, yes.
You mentioned
remember.
that it still happens today. So I was
I
wondering
remember.
what are the processes
Yes.
by which it happens today?
It still goes on. But this time more between the Niger Delta communities than with the Bibio communities. Do you have an idea of the Bibio of Nigeria? You know them. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yes.
Yeah. More between the Niger Delta communities and those areas, and much less with the Igbo communities. And what they do is somebody, mostly male from Niger Delta communities, will go into a Bimbio area and marry from a family in the Bimbio area. With the full understanding is that the lady they're getting out is gone and will become a member of the Niger Delta community, and there'll be no return. That is what is going on. Yes.